like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
In this video, I'm pretty much going to tell you guys who I think is in the Mujina Bandits from Boruto's cell. What we understand is that the person who is probably in Mujina Bandits probably backstabbed Boruto, and it's in Boruto's actual cell. We have 5 characters, one being Arai, one being Kakuta, one being Kamata, and of course the other 2 being Boruto and Mitsuki. I really think we don't necessarily need to be screening Mitsuki and Boruto. Those who are trying to save Kokuri, so they will be excluded from this video. Now the other 3 is pretty much going to be predominantly focused on Arai, the guy with the red hair, Kakata, the bald guy with the mohawk, and Kamata, which is the extremely quiet guy. Now 9 times out of 8 I'll probably pronounce all of their names wrong, but let's just roll with it. If you guys do want to skip to where I actually give you guys my opinion about who I think is actually in the Mujina Bandits, you guys can skip to right here. The timestamp is going to be on the screen right now, but without further ado, let's get into the actual rundown of all these characters. Now first things first, the red hair guy Arai. I think Arai is definitely the biggest target for a lot of the fans out there. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys probably think predominantly that this guy is the person in the Mujina Bandits. One of the things that I did feel extremely fishy is the fact that Arai didn't necessarily buy Boruto's story from the jump. Boruto told Arai that he was from like a water clan, and I think Arai definitely didn't buy that if you guys rewatch it. And also Boruto told Arai that he got 8 years for robbery. Just off of those things, it seemed like Arai wasn't necessarily buying it, mainly because Boruto is a child and he got 8 years for a simple robbery. If you guys know, children usually get a lighter sentence than adults. If a Boruto to get 8 years for robbery, that seems a little bit insane. Now the information that we learned prior to this interaction between Arai and Boruto is the fact that the Mujina Bandits pretty much targeted the Hidden Leaf Village before. Now because they targeted the Hidden Leaf Village, they most likely know who the Hokage is, and they most likely also know who the Hokage's son is. So Boruto being on this mission period was a mistake in my opinion, but also Boruto pretty much saying that he got 8 years for a simple robbery as a child, it seemed extremely far-fetched. But nevertheless, Arai was also the main person to give Boruto the keys to getting into the medical ward, and that seems a little bit fishy, man, because the person who actually stole the key card actually stole it when the medical ward actually came in. It seemed like Arai probably gave Boruto the keys to getting the medical people in there so he can steal the card himself. Now not only that, Arai seemed to know a lot of information about the Mujina Bandits, man, because whenever Boruto would ask him a question, he pretty much had all of the answers. Now the next person is the bald guy with the mohawk, Kakata. Now Kakata, in my opinion, would probably be my dream character to pretty much blame everything on and pretty much say he's part of the Mujina Bandits. I was even watching Naruto Explains video review. He wanted it to be Kakata as well, and I think that's probably going to be the best character to pretty much blame it on, but I think that's a slim chance. But I'll go through the things that we know of Kakata. Now first things first is that he's a proven thief. We seen as soon as Boruto and Mitsuki went into the actual cell, Kakata stole Boruto's toothbrush with a quickness, and Boruto didn't even realize it. Mitsuki didn't even realize it. So it pretty much tells us that 1, he's a proven thief, and 2, he's actually good at it. Like, he knows what he's doing, man, because if he could steal something right under Boruto and Mitsuki's nose, he could probably steal something under the doctor's noses as well. Kakata also has a relationship with the guards. One thing that we did see from Kakata in the last episode is that he gave the guards like some money and he told them to keep an eye on it, and it seemed like this wasn't the first transaction with them either. Now not only that, Kakata was also writing a letter to someone. He was telling them that he was respected. He could have been writing a letter to the number 2 that's in that exact same jail and is in solitary confinement. He could have possibly been telling like, yo, I'm respected, these guys respect me, please let me in the Mujina Bandits. Now I say please let me in the Mujina Bandits because in this last episode we figured out that he was 16 years old. He's most likely not in the actual Mujina Bandits yet, but it might be a situation where if Kakata completes this mission, which is to actually kill Kokuri, he might actually make it into the Mujina Bandits. This theory even gets way more juicy when we find out that the person who actually stabbed Kokuri had wildly inaccurate aim. It was insane. Like, the person broke into the medical ward, actually came face to face with Kokuri and didn't stab him in any vital points, not the carotid, not the heart, nothing. He stabbed him in the shoulder. So that pretty much tells me that the person to break into the medical ward has no idea of what he's doing in terms of actual hand-to-hand combat. And for Kakata to be 16, that pretty much goes hand in hand. Now what we understand from the Boruto and the Naruto series is that even young characters like Boruto and even more severe circumstances like Itachi, those guys could still kill you. But for this guy to be 16, most likely not a ninja, it seems to go with the idea that this guy could possibly be trying to prove his stripes to get in the Mujina Bandits. Now the next one is Kamata. This is the quiet one in my opinion. If it was this guy, it would be way too easy. I mean, he never talked to anybody. All he does is sleep. He doesn't pretty much socialize. He doesn't do anything. I mean, it would just be an obvious choice in my opinion, but I really don't think it's this guy. I feel like that probably would not be an interesting story. The Boruto writers just would not want to use him as the guy to pretty much be the person in the Mujina Bandits. So I personally think it's narrowed down to the first two people. Now, one of the biggest scenes in solving this case is of course the scene where Boruto got the coronavirus and the doctors pretty much rushed into his cell to take Boruto, mainly because we understand that's where the perpetrator stole the key card to get into the medical ward. The writers did something very slick. The writers made sure that Arai was pretty much front and center during all of this, mainly because they understood that we were going to question who actually did this. Now, there was a time where Arai was directly behind one of the medical personnel, and the medical personnel had the card right on his hip. We visually seen Arai sitting directly behind the key card. Now, once they got up, the medical personnel still had the card on his hip. Now that right there, in my opinion, would probably absolve Arai of being in the Mujina Bandits, but we don't really know yet. So after I seen that obviously shifted a lot of pressure onto Kamata, the bald guy with the mohawk. Now, a very important, I think this is the most important scene that we did see during the whole situation. The time when the person actually broke into the medical ward and tried to stab Kokuri. Now, we didn't really see the person actually. Like, we only seen silhouettes. We seen like fuzzy parts, like it was blurry, so we couldn't necessarily see everything. And even some of the color was extremely distorted. One of the things that we did see, or one of the things that I did notice throughout all of this, is that the color of the person's head was not in the frame, mainly because we understand that Arai has red hair, so they're trying to pretty much mask that from a lot of people, but they did mask everything. Now, this might just be in my head, but here's what I'm going to point out. When we seen the Mujina Bandit running out of the medical ward, we seen the person have hair. It seemed like an afro. That right there matches Arai to the T. Now, not only that, the only person in that cell with that type of hair is Arai, or Boruto or Mitsuki if they frizzed up their hair, but honestly, as I said, those two are not in this investigation. Now, not only that, the way the Mujina Bandit wore his jumpsuit was exactly like Arai. If you guys look at the confirmed Mujina Bandit, this guy has his sleeves rolled up. Arai usually wears his sleeves rolled up as well, but in comparison, Kamata never has his jumpsuit on. It's always slightly off, and he always has that white t-shirt. Now, of course, there's a possibility that just for this particular situation, Kamata put on his jumpsuit and rolled up his sleeves, but for what we know, this matches Arai. That right there pretty much seals it in my opinion, but I still go back to the scene where Arai didn't steal the key card. The person who was directly in front of Arai with the key card out, he walked away with the key card as well. Now, it could have possibly been a situation where Arai probably put a fake key card on the medical person. The smart decision in this case would probably to say that Arai is the person who is in the Mujina Bandits. Now, I'm gonna go bold. I think that Arai and Kamata are both in the Mujina Bandits. Matter of fact, let me make this clear. I think Arai is in the Mujina Bandits, but Kamata is pretty much trying to try out for the Mujina Bandits. This pretty much stems from that scene where Arai just did not steal the wooden tag. I think that Kamata, because we understand that he knows how to steal things, he's extremely skilled in that, he might have stolen the wooden tag and gave it to Arai for him to sneak into the medical ward and try to stab Kokuri. If that's the case, Arai doesn't have aim at all. It's just that simple. But here's the thing that I do want to point out. The person who probably stuck into the medical ward does not have to be the person in the actual cell. Because we don't know how many Mujina Bandits are in the actual prison, we have to assume that it is extremely plausible for Arai or Kamata to have given the card to somebody else for them to do the deed. But in my opinion, I think it's both of them. It has to be both of them, in my opinion. Now, one of the things that was extremely fishy for me is the fact that Kamata, he had a bag of something. Now, I'm not sure what it was, but it didn't really seem like it was money. Man, because when we seen the money, it was in the bucket. That whole bucket of money couldn't possibly fit into that small bag right there of what we've seen. Those could have possibly been some diamonds that we did see from the number 2 of the Mujina Bandits that was offered to Banga at first. If you guys recall, the number 2 tried to bribe Banga into getting rid of Kokuri, but he denied it. those could have possibly been jewels from the number 2 to pretty much pay him to get rid of Kokuri. But that right there is an extremely small possibility. The main thing that I do want you guys to take away from this is that I personally think that both of them did it, but if I were to pick one, I would definitely say Arai, man, because the smart money is gonna have to go on Arai. He was just way too close to the situation, and he was just way too friendly with Boruto for me to not pick him. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. It's been your boy Baara, and we out.
It's a knife.
Check my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm metrosexual, no high cholesterol. Where's Jenny Craig? Bitch, just get sexual.